Mm.
To me, Parai is only played only during funerals, right? So what is, educate me, like what is Parai is all about? Like how many adis are there? Like whatever the one that you performed, what is it? Like
Yeah.
explain and educate me. Yeah.
Right. Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity to do so. And this is really the knowledge that I'm concerned about that's not getting transmitted. Particularly, there's lots of Parai groups now forming in the US, the American Parai in St. Louis, so many groups all over the country. And what I'm concerned about is no one is learning, people are learning the adis, right? The rhythmic patterns. And these are not talas. These are rhythmic patterns. Actually, can you all put that screenshot up of the adi list? So when I studied with Kuranji Mahler, I studied for 4 months, and over that time period, I learned 35 different adis. Only three of them at the time I would even thought of as inauspicious, right? And those were the Savu adis, and there are three of them for different points in the funeral. Were you able to put that one up, Jeya Maran?
Jeya Maran, நீங்க போடுறீங்களா?
Zoe, you talk, Zoe. Like I'm bringing up a Zoe like
Okay,
one. Yeah,
super,
it's
super.
it's streaming one. Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, so all the rest, the other 32 IDs that I learned, and I imagine that there probably, I have not done a full, how many are there? I would say there's probably 60 IDs, maybe 100, right? And so these are rhythmic patterns. Each one of those rhythmic patterns has an aural association with an event, a ritual context, right? So when the drummers know this knowledge, drummers in the villages know this knowledge, and I think some people today still in the village might also have this knowledge. They'll play a pattern. They'll play a Samyatam or Tapatam, or they'll play Savu, and people will hear it a mile away and go, "Oh, there's a funeral happening. Oh, there's a festival happening. Oh, there's a sarang or a valikapu celebration," because of the particular rhythmic pattern, right? So it's like we can think of it like a ringtone. You set a particular ringtone for your mother when they call, and that's like, oh, mother. So we call it an indexical association, right? So I learned, Samyatam, and there's a general Samyatam. There's one that's specifically for Mutu Marima. There's one that's specifically for Karapusami. Tapatam is the one that most of us know. Jen, Nakudi, 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 Jen, Nakudi. Everybody knows that one. Matu Pongal, this is what they play in Alanganallur for Pongal. Kuravanji, Jen, Janaka Naka Jin, Jen, Janaka. Everybody says, oh, that's the gentleman's, Rahman's gentleman. Well, he took it from this pattern called Kuravanji, right? He didn't create that pattern. He borrowed it, took it from these drummers, Jen, Janaka Naka Jin, Jen, Janaka Naka Jin, right?
அந்த பாட்டு.
Yeah, right. Exactly. And Kavadi, which is for Murugan processions, Wailatam, etc. And this is a changing repertoire as well. My teachers heard a particular film song and they invented something they call disco, right? And it's very similar actually to, I think, to the Kavadi. It's just like one syllable different from Kavadi, but it's very fast and it has a particular dance pattern to it. So it's really important to understand this association. This is not getting transmitted to people so many people are learning Parai now. And I don't know, I need to look, Manimaran, I think, is discussing these kinds of things. People are just learning the syllables, the Vaipat or I call it Son Adi. And they're just, learning Janjanaka Nakadin, as opposed to, Temangu or Kavadi. They're not learning the terms, and thus what we call a genre association. And the fact that it's a whole complex of interarts. So there's always a particular dance step. There's what we call a tune, a mutu. Is that called? No, not mutu. Metu. There's a metu, a tune association. Ta na 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 na. Well, what goes with that? Jenjanaka, a version of tapatam. And and then there's an event at which that would be played in the ritual context. So that I'm concerned that knowledge, sure, there are still parai drummers in all the villages. They have this knowledge, but the transmission of that, it needs to happen as well. At least the terms, so we know which patterns are associated with which events. So that's part of the work that I'm trying to do in the book that I'm writing. And let me just say, maybe you can take that slide down now. The other thing that's important, you asked about parai and funerals. This is a very urban middle class, let's say, legend and stereotype. And we need to ask the question critically, what does it function to do? By saying, well, all they play is funerals, right? It functions to degrade them if you believe that the funeral is a polluting context. It re-pollutes the drummers. It associates the drum with pollution, reassociates that. So this I don't think any person who lives in a village would ever say that, because they know the parai drummers are called for the annual festival and all of these things. But it's people in the urban areas that, they just play for funerals. Well, that is false. It's not true at all. There are all of these adis, and what's really beautiful is that more and more, and I think this is a lot the work of people like Jeya Maran, that more and more people are starting to call parai drummers to play for their weddings, to play for various other auspicious events. But the other thing that I've learned recently from visiting the STAR group in Seattle is that, from my friend Jay Krishnan, is that in Western Tamil Nadu, in the Polachi area, Darabaram area, when a person dies who is older, who has lived a full life, it's not considered inauspicious. It's considered a festival, a celebration. And so this is new for me, and I need to do some more research on it. If anyone out there knows more about this, Perasi Raka, if you know more about this, and I need to study more about this. When a young person dies, or you die from being murdered or something, okay, that's really mournful. But this idea that it's a celebration, and so, okay, then does that mean that these savu patterns are also auspicious? Does that mean the drum is auspicious? So it's about changing the rhetoric, or can we ever believe that funeral is not polluting? That, to me, Tamil Makale, that would be your ultimate thing. If you want to prevent this drum from being considered inauspicious, from considering it polluting, then the context in which it plays need to be considered auspicious. And so that, that would have to be a big paradigm shift within Hinduism. So, let's see if that can happen. And then just one more thing I want to talk about is the word tapu and tapatam. So a lot of another negation that people say, tapu, mistake, right? So, right, the synonym. But where does the word tapu come from? Anybody know? Where does the word tapu come from? People say, does it mean plate? Does it mean to beat? Well, if we look at etymology and we look at history, and this is coming through in the book that I'm writing, the word tapu is related to the word dappu in Telugu, in Andhra Pradesh. Okay? Right? Dappu tapu. And our Tamil scholars know that the D and the T are interchangeable. Right? So it's dappu in Andhra Pradesh. Now, we know that the Nayakas kings came from Vijayanagara Empire, Nayaka kings in the 1500s, right? So we might say, okay, is there any connection between that Telugu language? We know that Arundatiyars in Western Tamil Nadu, in Northern Tamil Nadu, play this drum. And they also speak Telugu, right? So we've got these two words. We've got dapu, dapu, and we've got parai. So then let's take the word dapu in Andhra. Well, then there's the word dap. And we know that I don't know if it's all Dravidian languages or just Tamil, you have to put a vowel at the end of the word, right? You have no words that don't have vowels on the end. But if you take dapu and you say dup, well, there's a drum that's a frame drum, right? The frame drum, just like our instrument here. Let me just grab it, right? It's a short frame, right? A frame. It's one-sided, one head. There's frame drums throughout the Middle East, and in places like Armenia and Persia, and they're called dup. Okay, so did we know there was a lot of interchange with the Middle East through the Vijayanagara Empire? Turkic people, Persian people coming, in the 1500s, coming through ocean networks, the Indian Ocean networks coming across land as well. And so we have dup, and then in other parts of the Middle East, if you go to Egypt and other places, it's called duff, right? And we know that the F and the P are interchangeable. So what's the relationship between tapu and duff? They're both frame drums. They have a similar name. So this is some historical work that I'm trying to do. The political issue is, are we saying that this drum did not originate in Tamil Nadu? That this particular drum, meaning a frame drum shaped drum, was not the parai of Sangam literature? And so this is a question that I'm asking. So I'm looking at the historical work, and so I'm sort of moving into talking about my book. I'm doing historical work on this. I'm looking at Sangam literature, and I've gone through. There are 44 incidences of the word parai in that corpus, and I've gone through each one of them to say, asking these questions: what shape was the drum? How did it sound? Was it played with hands or with sticks, right? What were the contexts in which it was played? So I'm doing a musicological look at that, not just the word, but what can the context tell us about these things? And we know, as the Peras here told us, that the word parai is, first of all, a general word for drum, and it's a specific word. So, we also have to go through that. Are we talking about a general term, or are we talking about a specific term? So I'm looking at that. I'm asking these questions. I'm trying to come up with, we have siru parai, so many different types of parai. But I also don't think I never really see any context in which it was played with sticks, right? The other direction towards doing historical, like how do we do history on this drum, right? We don't, we have Sangam, which is amazing that we have a written corpus, but then after that, what happens, right? We know that perhaps through Jainism, some sense of untouchability comes in by the year 500. For sure, by the year 900, we have in Tanjore, we have land divisions. There's the term adimai comes in. That the people who played that are called pariyars are considered slaves, right? So we know that untouchability in the Tanjore area, at least, becomes much more solidified by like the 9th century. Well, about the same time, we have Raja Cholan creating in a place called Darasaram a temple. It's 11th century temple that shows so many friezes around in the inside of the temple, around the inner temple, where the deity is. So many different images of musicians and dancers. So I systematically went through that, and then I had a photographer go back with Mani Maran and take pictures of each frieze. Not a single image of a frame drum. We have drums that look like urumi. We have drums that look like murdangam, maybe tavel. Not a single frame drum, and nothing played with sticks.
Okay.
Okay. So again, it makes it. Was there? And so Money Maran really took this question because he kind of didn't believe me. He didn't believe me. So he did his own looking at other various temples, and I still need to kind of collect some of that data. And there are some in southern Tamil Nadu. There are also the work of Anna Seastrom at the University of Minnesota. There are temples in southern Tamil Nadu that were built by the Nayaka kings that have these images in them of frame drummers. Again, most of them play with hands, some of them looking Turkic, but some of them more indigenous. We also have Hampi, which is 15th century or 1500s. There are wonderful images of both sort of players looking more Indian that are leading the king into battle, that are playing frame drums. And we have Turkic images. You can tell because there's a particular kind of hat on these drummers, and they are with other kind of diplomats that are coming from that part of the world to meet the king. And so, we start to really get these images after the 1500s. So again, it makes me wonder and ask this question, and I do not have an answer yet. If any of your audience out there can help me, please email me. Let's be in dialogue about this. When did the frame drum, become this instrument in Tamil Nadu, become the tapatam or the tapu in Tamil Nadu? This is really my historical question.
So நீங்க இப்போ வந்து ஒரு பறை இசை அப்படின்னா அது இசையையும் தாண்டி அது கருவியையும் தாண்டி அதுக்கான வரலாற்று கூறுகள் என்னன்னு நீங்க சங்க காலத்துல இருந்து நடுவுல எங்க தொலைச்சோம் அப்படிங்கிறது எல்லாத்துக்குமான ஆய்வு. தமிழர்களின் எல்லா கூறுகளுக்கும் நடுவில் எங்கேயோ ஒரு கேப் இருக்குங்கிறத நாம வந்து we are trying to find out, and that is what you are also trying to find out in terms of பறை. I totally understand. That was really interesting.